Hey everyone, so I got a request to talk about belaying off of the anchor, and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about it a bit. What I have here is my standard quad setup where I have my other partner on this strand and here's mine. And then this particular question was a bit about an advanced technique of directly belaying on the anchor rather than belaying off your belay loop like you would normally do in many different circumstances. And so there are a few things you want to take note. And get up here. There are a few things you want to take note of when you do belay directly off the anchor. And the first thing is you want to set yourself up from the very beginning. So you do have to put a little bit of forethought into it, or at least reconfigure your anchor when you're heading straight off, or when you eventually get up here and make that decision. So in this case, I'm going to say I'm climbing off to the right here. And the only time we really want to consider belaying off the anchor versus belaying off of our belay loop the standard way is when there's an immediate factor 2 fall potential right off the anchor. So before I get a chance to clip the next bolt above or place my next cam, I have a chance of falling off in that immediate sequence off the anchor and then adding in a big load to my climber. The usual way we deal with this is just by having some sort of directional in the anchor to clip the line to, and then you can have this end going off to your belayer. The problem is if you do happen to actually make that fall, sometimes you can generate enough force to drag the belayer's belay device up into this and then compromise their ability to belay, and everything goes bad pretty quickly. So the idea with belaying off the anchor is now you have the anchor, this strong bolt, and all your material actually acting as your belay loop, and you have a greater chance of catching your climber. And so in this scenario, I'm going off to the right, like I just said. So what you want right here is you really want to make sure that this bolt or your anchor isn't going to come off of the bolt that you're going to use for your belay. So in that case, I put a locking carabiner right here. You really want to make sure that this is a locking carabiner because it's now a critical point. If this detaches, not only have you compromised the safety of your climber, but you've compromised your ability to belay, and everything could just go really bad. And so that's why you want a locking carabiner right here. Another thing is you'll notice how my anchor, I have a reinforced point right here compared to this side. You can see how I have 4 strands versus 2. And while 2 strands are okay, the thing you want to avoid is 1. Having 4 is really nice to help distribute the load of any force on the anchor, as well as just keeping everything super redundant. And so that's why I put this knot on this side of the anchor going off to the side. What I'm going to do is take a locking carabiner. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to set this up. First one I'm going to use is the multi-hitch. And so you see I have a really big bar stock locker right here. And I'll just build my munter right on top. And so now, if I unclip myself, there we go. And I'm going to be acting as my own belay here just for the example. But you can see how as I climb out, whoever's belaying me can just feed rope out and keep everything in a little bit of a U shape as I climb up. And if I fall, you can just see how the force is transported on to the whole bolt anchor system right there. So that's one of the more common ways. That's probably the way that you'll see it done in Europe a whole lot with their guides that they have there. But one thing that can cause a problem is whenever you attach the belay to an anchor, you're pretty much dedicated to keeping that same belay for the entire pitch. And the multi-hitch has a bit of a nasty habit of twisting the rope. And so one way we can avoid the twist is by setting up a redirected plate. Here, let me get this locker out of here. What I want to do is, whenever you're doing the redirected plate, the plate is going to be closest to the climber. So there you go. And I would say maybe 2 of the same style carabiner would be best here. But then what I'm going to do is set it up so that way the climber's end, which I'm the climber, just follow the pictures on the ATC. Lock that one. Lock that one. Then I'll hold my brake strand again. And you see how now I'm on a redirected plate. So if I happen to fall, this whole thing There you go. I'll actually sit on it. This whole thing will act like it normally does when you're in any sort of lowering situation. And it will flip into that orientation even if I do take a big fall on it, or whoever's leading takes a big fall. The big caveat to this one is it's a bit more work for whoever's belaying you, because you have to keep a loop here, and then, or like a small loop here, just to sort of work with the rope. So it actually takes a bit of practice to feed out slack smoothly. So it may not be the best idea to just take off from the anchor and climb as fast as possible in order to get that first piece in. You want to just climb calmly and considerately, because you don't really want to fall in general. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about directly belaying off the anchor. It's the sort of thing that you want to experiment with your friend on the ground or in a safe area with maybe with a backup rope if you are going to do something like this on an actual climb like what we're on. Yeah, just experiment around with it, do some research on it. I haven't done all the research I could on this sort of anchor setup. It's kind of a newer idea, and it makes a lot of sense in some circumstances, but it shouldn't be your fallback, at least not yet. Maybe you'd stick to your standard belay style before you decide to just go onto the anchor. This is kind of something that's only going to be used maybe very sparingly throughout your climbing career. If you have anything to add or any thing you've read or heard about it and have any questions, then leave a comment, and then I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, so
it's in 2 videos now. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine. I edit out a bunch of stuff anyway. But,
so I can just do this and say random shit. Awesome.
Yep, yeah, totally. You're good.